Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, it's Friday, July 22nd. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll, in for Maya Trabulsi. It is Christmas in July for many businesses who've been eagerly awaiting the return of Comic-Con. Big crowds lining up to spend big bucks is providing the economic boost sorely missed during the pandemic. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado is live in the gas lamp quarter with more on the economic expectations. Kitty.
Hi, John, and that's right. And it's Friday, 5 o'clock. Everyone's getting out of work, and this is the place to be, Comic-Con. And it's packed already, so you can imagine people are gonna head down here. If you take a look behind me, it's already really busy. So far, the busiest I've seen it out of all the days I've been here. And every business down here is gearing up for the weekend. The weekend is surely to be the busiest day. You know, all we hear about is inflation this, inflation that, people are cutting back, but that's not what the businesses down here tell me. They say people are definitely loosening up their purse strings, their wallets, and they are ready to spend. As tens of thousands of fans descend on San Diego Comic-Con, businesses around the Pop Culture Fest are reaping the rewards. The prime location goes to the Prime Steakhouse, of course. Lou and Mickey's at the Gas Lamp. They're right across from the convention center.
Having a line out the door is always a great way to start the day, right?
It's not even 11 a.m., but people are already lining up for Lou and Mickey's famous dry-aged steaks.
The line was going out almost like halfway down the street. I'm like, oh, is this a panel that people were trying to post up? But no, it's for business, and which is great for us here.
General Manager Michael Malikdom happily opened the doors himself at 11:30 sharp and welcomed his first customers of the day. He says this energy feels good after years of not seeing these crowds.
This is like back to normal and then some. We're finding that people do want to come back out and socialize and be with the crowds again, and just be in the moment again. We were locked down for almost 2 years, and just to interact with groups and people again is just exciting. That's what San Diego's all about.
Economists estimate that Comic-Con brings in over $160 million to the local economy. Malikdom says he hasn't seen these kinds of numbers since before the pandemic.
We're hitting record sales for sure. Just the past couple of days, we're all reading sales that we were hitting back in 2019, and we thought 2019 was busy for us. So this year is already beating those numbers.
He wouldn't give me the exact figures, but he let me guess how many thousands he's doing a night over his usual sales. Stop me when I hit the number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I mean, it's absolutely wonderful to be down here and do some reporting about businesses actually doing well after so much reporting about business struggling during the pandemic. And I absolutely love it. And here we have Spock. What is your famous saying?
My opinion on the Comic-Con is that people here are amazing.
Yeah, but you have a famous saying that goes, live long and
prosper, of course.
That's right. And with the economy booming right here because of Comic-Con, that's the perfect saying.
Exactly.
So there you go. Live long and prosper. Come on down, and we hope everyone has a wonderful Comic-Con. We love to see all the businesses thriving. Reporting live from Comic-Con, back to you in the studio.
Wow. Looks just like Leonard Nimoy came back. We have more, thanks Kitty, we have more Comic-Con coverage coming up on Evening Edition. We'll take a look inside the convention center and introduce you to local stormtrooper cosplayers. COVID-related hospitalizations are continuing to increase in San Diego County, and now we're in the CDC's high-risk tier because of it. But as KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman explains, these hospitalizations are different than those from previous spikes.
The summer surge is seeing about 460 San Diegans hospitalized with COVID-19. That's 4 times what we had back in May, but it's still less than previous surges. And this wave of hospitalizations is different in another way.
It is across the board much less acute.
Sharp Healthcare has the most patients hospitalized with COVID at around 160. Chief Operating Officer Brett McLean says the good news is fewer San Diegans are needing to be admitted to the ICU or put on ventilators.
The overall picture absolutely is a less acute variant, thank goodness. That said, we are seeing a similar surge of a higher acute nature with those that are older.
It's unclear if officials are seeing less severe illness because the new BA.5 variant is milder or due to the wall of protection built up with vaccinations or previous infections, or even a mix of both.
We certainly have less patients with this surge who are requiring ventilation than ever before. And that's great because our antivirals are working.
UC San Diego Health's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Christopher Longhurst, says he's also seeing some patients presenting with milder illness, and their data shows recent infections aren't as deadly as before.
What's circulating now probably has a mortality rate less than the flu.
Recently, a Los Angeles County USC Medical Center official said just 10% of their patients admitted with COVID are actually being hospitalized because of it. But Longhurst says they aren't seeing that in San Diego.
Up to 2/3 of patients we're admitting to the hospital are being admitted for COVID as opposed to with COVID. The LA County data seems a little bit off to us.
Many San Diegans hospitalized with COVID have underlying medical conditions that the virus makes worse. So it can be difficult to pinpoint what's driving the serious cases.
It's kind of the combo of that, and we just don't think it's helpful or appropriate or even valid to be able to pull out, the because of or due to.
Scripps Health officials also maintain the majority of patients in their hospitals with COVID are admitted because of COVID. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ghazala Sharif says they're finding about 10% of hospitalizations are incidental case findings.
Which means that people are getting tested for procedures and they don't even know they have COVID.
COVID aside, officials at Sharp and Scripps are seeing unusually high volumes of non-COVID related emergency room and urgent care visits. And there's another persisting issue, hospital staffing. Sharp alone had 700 employees out with COVID on Thursday.
We have to replace those staff, right, with others to be able to take care of the patients.
The staffing shortage, along with the unpredictable nature of COVID surges, has made it hard to run a hospital.
Are we going to get to that crossroads at some point where we have to start delaying surgeries again? And none of us wants to do that. So I think it's a time for us to all take a pause. We all know what to do. Just be extra careful.
With infections rising, officials are recommending people use the state's CA Notify phone system. It was pioneered here in San Diego, and it can let people know if they've come in close contact with someone who has the virus. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Supervisor Jim Desmond calls it a dark day for the community of Borrego Springs. A San Diego judge has decided that it's safe to place sexually violent predator Michael Martinez in a supervised home in the desert community. You may recall we brought you the story a couple of weeks ago when more than a dozen Borrego Springs residents made the trip to San Diego to plead with the judge not to place Martinez in their town. The house where he will be placed is near to homes where children live. Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a gun control bill that takes aim at 2 recent U.S. Supreme Court decisions. It allows people to sue anyone who distributes illegal weapons or parts, including assault weapons and so-called ghost guns. It's modeled after a Texas anti-abortion law, allowing people to sue anyone who provides or helps provide an abortion.
And Greg Abbott and their Republican leadership, if they're going to use this framework to put women's lives at risk, we're going to use it to save people's lives here in the state of California.
This comes a month after the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortions and undermined gun control laws. The governor also signed 8 additional gun laws yesterday. San Diego's Metropolitan transit system is buying more electric buses. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the agency is on track to double its fleet this year.
Currently, MTS has only 13 electric buses. A contract approved by the Board of Directors this week lays the groundwork for growing that fleet more than 16-fold over the next 5 years. The deal also authorizes buying more than 250 buses that run on compressed natural gas. Board Chairman Nathan Fletcher says those will help keep the system running as MTS works toward a deadline of going all electric by 2040.
We know in the interim we don't have enough charging capacity. There's not enough range, particularly on the larger buses. We still need some technology advances, but it's moving rapidly, and I am very, very confident we will get there.
Compressed natural gas, or CNG, buses are currently cheaper than electric buses. But MTS board member Jack Hsu says they should still be retired as soon as possible because natural gas leaks during production or transport are a major contributor to climate change.
It is pretty good to have cleaner air for these buses to run on CNG rather than diesel, of course, for our communities. But overall, for greenhouse gas emissions, it's not any better than burning coal.
MTS ridership has been higher than expected this year, likely fueled in part by high gas prices. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
A sold-out crowd at Del Mar as the summer racing season got underway today. The 86th season saw race fans back in the grandstands after having to go without last year due to COVID. This season, no restrictions are in place. As for the racing, racetrack officials say all efforts are being made to keep the track safe and protect both the jockeys and the horses.
If anything looks out of place with a horse, vets are told to withdraw the horse from the race.
Also worth noting, new safety rules went into effect on July 1st as part of the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act. Del Mar has been named the safest racetrack in North America 3 years running now.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, revelations from the House Select Committee's latest public hearing on the Capitol attack. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
One of America's most recognizable butterflies is now listed as endangered. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature has added the migratory monarch butterfly to its red list of threatened species. The organization estimates the butterfly's western population has declined 99.9% between the 1980s and 2021. Experts say the biggest threats are habitat destruction and climate change. Much of the country is dealing with scorching temperatures and suffocating humidity. Around 85% of the U.S. population could see temperatures above 90 degrees. Here in San Diego, it looks like we could be in for a cool down, maybe even a chance of rain. Meteorologist Jeff Cornish has our forecast.
Well, we are dealing with a hot evening still in the interior, but there's relief coming. We have some relatively good news here as it'll gradually cool down. By Sunday, you'll notice the change in the interior. Really pleasant weather along the coast, and we could use some rain, obviously, in the interior. There's long-term drought, but there are some signs that we will see spotty thunderstorms develop next week in the mountains and the deserts. So you got to be off to the eastern part of the region, but there will be some significant increases in monsoon moisture in the days to come. Satellite radar combo shows there's been some isolated action across parts of Arizona, but with this big sprawling ridge of high pressure aloft over the Four Corners region, there hasn't been a whole lot of traction for any of those showers, and the monsoon's been muted a bit, or at least dialed down a bit this past week. That'll change next week. Overnight, 83, still warm in Borrego Springs, but El Cajon 67, 65 into San Diego, and a sizzling day tomorrow still for the interior. Just a little less hot than today was, but you can see an increase in the monsoon moisture well off to the east. Will stay dry, obviously, through Saturday and into San Diego County. 110 in Borrego Springs. Still hot enough, just not as hot as it has been. El Cajon 91, Escondido around 85. Ramona looks toasty at 92. But along the coast, 72 there in San Diego. And you can see, here come a few little zones of green nudging west into Southern California. spotty storms. They'll become a bit more numerous next week here into the mountains and the deserts. Beneficial rain. There will be a risk for, on a small scale, localized flash flooding. That's all thanks to this ridge of high pressure moving away to the east that opens the door for that monsoon flow. Along the coast, we'll be going from around 76 Sunday to 73 Wednesday. Slight cooling there, barely noticeable. Inland areas cooling down just a little bit, 1-2 degrees cooler. The mountains, though, here's where we get into some scattered storms as early as Sunday, more likely Monday and Tuesday. And in the deserts, we could see an isolated storm here, too, not nearly as hot. I'm meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
Port of San Diego commissioners are another step closer to deciding whether to approve a massive renovation of the Seaport Village site. The first proposal from the developer, One Highway 1, to massively change Seaport Village came 6 years ago. The process slowed way down during the pandemic, but now it's moving forward again. On Thursday, commissioners heard about changes made in the plans since the last update they received in March. The commissioners heard from more than 24 members of the public. Most of them said they're against the proposal for varying reasons. Developer Yehudi Gaffin says they're still open to making changes.
We know that this journey is still got a way to go. We know that the project is still going to change as we move forward till we actually reach a groundbreaking, but we're 100% committed to deal with whatever obstacle comes before us.
The project still has several more steps to go through before it comes to a final vote. More now of our Comic-Con coverage and how San Diego will benefit far beyond this weekend. Here's SDSU's Miro Kopik with the Friday Business Report.
The city of San Diego benefits tremendously because Comic-Con, out of the 65 or so conventions that come through San Diego, is by far the largest. The fans, they're thrilled. There's been 2 virtual Comic-Cons and kind of a truncated Comic-Con back in November of 2021. So this is kind of the full immersive experience. I was down at the hall and you know, people are in full regalia and full costumes, and the panels are exciting. Then imagery-wise, from the city of San Diego's perspective, this is really one of those events that brings in media from all over the world. It's an incredible opportunity for the city of San Diego to be showcased as a place to be. And so normally, you know, there's about 2,500 media from all over the world that descend on Comic-Con. So this is a great opportunity for us to showcase that. It is worth tens of millions of dollars of TV advertising and the amount of media coverage that we get. It's a great kind of plus out for the city and its tourism efforts.
Now, Comic-Con isn't just about superheroes and fantasy. It's also about harnessing pop culture to create social change. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado introduces us to a pair of Black writers and creators from the UK who are hoping to do just that.
Among the hustle and bustle of the small press exhibitors at San Diego Comic-Con, you'll find Yomi Ayeni.
I love steampunk, but I dislike colonialism.
The mastermind behind the futuristic book and comic series set in Victorian England called Clockwork Watch.
A steampunk story that has recontextualized or revisits the world of colonialism.
He says his series makes a heavy subject accessible to every reader.
It's kind of funny, you know, where the black person is revisiting the colonial age, but is trying to put together a story that everybody, irrespective of your race, your color, your gender.
Alongside Ayeni, you'll find Corey Brotherson. They've been working on this series together for over a decade and built up a steampunk fan base at Comic-Con, where this year they'll launch a new book in the series. They're excited to interact with their fans again after being apart because of the pandemic lockdowns.
Not having that for several years has been a real kind of blow in that sense of just like being able to talk to people, being able to actually get some feedback on your work and kind of seeing their eyes light up when they start to understand and engage with the actual creativity process and everything that comes with that.
Ayeni says creating a series that helps people escape into a fantasy world is the easy part. The hard part, getting fans to emerge from it, wanting to take action.
And when we look back at history, in some instances, there are things that we see that aren't that palatable. And it's a choice. The story itself gives you an opportunity to look in the mirror and question your background, but also ask whether you as an individual can make the world a better place.
Through the book, they're fundraising for a school in Kenya that takes in underage girls being forced into marriages.
You can then say, well, I am helping young girls, giving them a chance in life.
By reading his words on a page, his fans are finding their own voice for change. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The 501st Legion is a worldwide costuming organization run by dedicated Star Wars fans. When KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando got her own Stormtrooper costume, she decided to find out about joining the Legion.
I really am too short to be a Stormtrooper, but Dean Amstutz assures me I'm not.
501st does not discriminate based on height, body shape, gender, anything like that.
Amstutz is the Garrison Membership Liaison. He's in charge of approving all the costumes for the San Diego and Imperial County areas, including my Stormtrooper.
I can tell from looking at the lenses, these are bubble lenses, that this is an A&H Hero helmet instead of a stunt, which is the ones that like Luke and Han wore. They wore the Hero versions.
Amstutz consults something called a Character Reference Library.
We call it a CRL for short, and it's basically the list of requirements you have to meet for the costume to be screen accurate. So part of the 501st Legion is that we are all about film accuracy. So we don't want to look like just guys in Stormtrooper costumes. We want to look like we stepped right off the film set.
Or onto one. Although the volunteer organization is not affiliated with Lucasfilm, members of the 501st recently appeared as extras in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and they arrived on set in full screen-accurate gear. The 501st includes all the Star Wars villains and all variations of Stormtroopers.
Yes, there's dozens of actually different types of Stormtroopers from the movies, from the animated shows, from comic books. So there's dozens of different types of troopers.
That means a CRL for each, says Lindsay Seaport, Legion Executive Officer.
We try to get angles from all the sides. Sometimes we even have to use action figures if we don't have all of the sides that we need, though we try to rely on action figures a little bit less.
CPOC is second in command for the global organization of 14,000 members in 60 different countries. When I met CPOC, she was at an armor party.
It is what we do at the local level to get members together, but it's not only for members, it's also for potential members who are looking to join the 501st. So if you're looking to build a costume, you're not quite sure how to build it, you come here and everybody gets together and works on the costume together.
The organization encourages members to partake in a lot of charity work. Shane Hawley is the Garrison Commanding Officer of the Imperial Sands Garrison. He recalled doing an event and meeting a little girl.
As soon as I got down onto my knee, she ran out from behind her dad and gave me the biggest bear hug I've ever had in my life. And at that point, I knew that's what I wanted to do in the community, was to be able to kind of give back and do that.
That's why he loves being part of the 501st. Plus, it pushes him to expand his skill set.
Since starting, I've learned how to sew, I've learned how to 3D print, I've learned how to make costumes out of sheets of plastic. It's something that I never thought that I would be doing.
Fellow 501st member Irma Michelle Tuano has taken it a step further.
First, it was a hobby. I still work full-time. And then my friend said, why don't you create an Etsy site? And so I did, and then next thing you know, I put some stuff on there, like robots and droid parts, and then all of a sudden it blew up. And then now on my Etsy site, it's actually official now. It's called TD Outpost. And you can see all the work that I've done and all the droids I build, and an extra side business for me too.
As Amstutz returns to looking over my armor, he stops at the belt.
It looks a little wide, so there's a maximum width for that, and I brought the CRL so I can look it up. Let me see what it says, and I'll pull out my handy tape measure. Size must be 2 3/4 to 3 1/4. Yeah, this is a 4-inch belt, so.
Okay. Sometimes the difference between getting in and getting out is a stitch in the right place. And you know what? If your stitch isn't in the right place, it doesn't make your costume any better or any worse than anybody else's. It's all about what you're feeling comfortable with and what you want to do with your costume.
Move along. If you want to go to the dark side, then check out the 501st either online or at their fan table or panel at Comic-Con. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Beth. And Comic-Con is a great place to people watch. There is so much going on inside and outside the convention center, as our video journalist Carlos Castillo shows you.
It's back.
Some of us have on our badges a thing says we're home again because it does feel like home.
Feels really good to be back. I mean, the crowd here has been fantastic the entire week so far. Even the week building up to the event has been fantastic. The whole city just feels alive again.
Great thing about this place is we come from all over the place, Europe, all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, and we all meet up here.
We got Venom Punk here, Carnage Punk, Eddie Brock Punk, and Gwen Punk.
There's people that I've known for almost 20 years that are in my phone or I communicate and I only see at Comic-Con, so not being able to see them for that many years really did take a toll on all of us. And so we're just excited. We're all giddy. I'm like lifting out of my shoes here.
Nice to see it back. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. Join me on KPBS Radio beginning at 7:04 tomorrow morning, and have a great weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.